Season 3 is an interesting case, being a half season. It was more than just strange for being the only half season, it had some controversies that followed along. So it was far from a boring season. By being a half season, it created a weird balance of good episodes and not so good ones. Though I'd say the top 5 I picked would be near or in my top favorites, I can't really do a full honorable mentions this time around since I didn't much like the other options. Still, what episodes we did get are strong in their own right. This is why. Sleepless in Ponyville is the beginning of the dream arc for the CMC, and it's a great idea. What a perfect way to build on Luna and show she was more than Celestia's shadow, while also building on the characters of the CMC. More importantly, this is Scootaloo's first solo adventure, and it's a strong one. It helps build on the sisterly relationship between Scootaloo and Rainbow, showing the missing gap in Scootaloo's life she's trying to fill. With what we learn later, seeing her trying to be strong and independent here is more than to impress Rainbow. It's probably what she needed to do in order to get by. There are some great moments of humor like Sweetie singing, and those dream sequences. They're so cool. It has a great moral about how it's okay to be afraid, and Rainbow gets to show how wonderful of a mentor she is. Funny to think there's a trend with some of Pinky's episodes being equally funny, yet terrifying. Too Many Pinkie Pies does so with Pinky's clones. I love the idea of the mirror pool. It's a cool setting in a sense, while also creating an interesting conflict. Poor Pinky, just wanting to spend time with all her friends and not miss out on things. But this is not the way to do it. The way her friends determine the real Pinky by testing who's most loyal to them is horrifying. I fear Twilight may have been a bit trigger-happy. It was needed though. They were causing a lot of damage to the town. It also shows one of Pinky's strongest traits as a character, how much she loves her friends. Focus on one thing at a time and don't worry about what you're missing out on. You can always make up for it later. It's a good lesson to teach, and it's done in such an amazing way. Magic Duels, the sequel we never expected but couldn't live without. Ghostbusters wasn't so great, so seeing Trixie return with that amulet and showing out Twilight in such a way that forced her into a tough position is an amazing idea. Where before, Twilight had no reason to try and show up anyone and had to be forced through the dumb actions of those idiots. Now Twilight has something worth fighting for, and for a much better reason. Her friends, her town, they're under threat from a tyrannical, vengeful maniac. But unlike before, she can't magic her way out. Instead, she has to do a reversal and put on a show. Zecora acting as her mentor was so awesome, and I wish the show had stuck with it. I love Fluttershy and her little outfit, the joke with Pinky's mouth being taken away, the whole thing about Wheels, and the doofuses from before getting some real comeuppance, and how everything resolves. It's easily one of Season 3's best, and if it weren't for the next 2 outstanding episodes, it could have easily topped. Wonderbolt's Academy is one of the best episodes in the whole show. It's difficult to stand up to people you admire, especially if they're your boss in a sense. It's even harder to snitch, because what does that make you? When loyalty is one of your defining traits, it might as well be a betrayal of yourself. Instead, Rainbow takes a greater road. She gives up her dreams in defiance of a system that encourages recklessness over the well-being of others. Ponies nearly died over Lightning's actions. Ponies who are Rainbow's friends. How could she stand by that? Maybe it was her dream. But it isn't worth it if it means ponies get hurt. What makes this episode great outside of that is how close Lightning is to Rainbow. They're practically reflections of one another, aside from one major difference. Lightning doesn't care what she has to do to be the best, while Rainbow has a conscience. Sure, it may hold Rainbow back a bit, but what's the point in being the best if people are going to get hurt? Slow and steady wins the race, right? With some great jokes, amazing moments, and a standout character like Lightning, what's not to love? The Crystal Empire is the best Crystal Empire-centric episode. Not only does Twilight get an amazing moral that's important to her character growth, but we get to explore a new, beautiful location and bring back the light that once showed from this patch of green in the midst of a storm. But let's be honest, the real star of this episode is Sombra, a villain who may look like a fabulous, edgy meme, which he is, yet is so intimidating. He doesn't say much. He doesn't even have any personal interaction with Twilight. All we have are the memories of the Crystal Ponies. The fact Celestine Luna had to seal away the whole empire, unable to fully stop Sombra alone. The efforts made to stop anyone from retrieving the heart, what he did to Shining, and the strain Cadance is going through to keep him back. And that's all we needed. Beyond that, the ending was fantastic, with lovely animation. Twilight sacrificing the test, as she thinks, for the sake of the Crystal Empire, Spike delivering the heart, Cadance retrieving and pushing back the darkness that threatened the newly restored empire. It was truly an epic start to the season. Just for Sidekicks is an alright episode. Considering Games Ponies Play was a sister episode, alright is pretty good. It has some nice animal humor, and an episode about responsibility like this, especially for Spike, is nice. Considering the pressure from the higher-ups and the notion this was it, the creators did a pretty fine job with Magical Mystery Cure, and I applaud their attempt. It couldn't have been easy squeezing a whole musical, the ending to Twilight's rise to Alicornhood, and the amount of everything that would normally make up a two-parter into 22 minutes. Yeah, it's obviously flawed. It should have been in 2 parts. This comes way too soon. But despite all that, it's much better than it had any right to be. It's a testament to the strength of this team that they could pull this off so well with pretty much everything against them. This was a pretty wild season, not necessarily in what it did, but what came of it, such as Discord being reformed, the meme material Sombra, and of course, the whole Twilicorn fiasco. Still, this season had some great entries, ones that could easily make anyone's favorites list. Join me tomorrow as I go through my favorites of Season 4.